Welcome to the Piece of Me podcast, the place to find different ways to bring enjoyment, simplicity, happiness, and of course, more peace into your life. Life gets busy, noisy, and at times it's messy. I'm here to help you clean things up and put peace back in its place. Each episode, I'll share tips, ideas, and fresh perspectives to help you live your best life. Hi friends, it's Lexy Leigh. If you're new here, then welcome. If you're not new, then welcome back. I'm so glad that you're joining me today to talk about friendships fading. And this is a difficult topic because it's painful, but it's something that we don't talk enough about, I think at times, because as we're so busy with life and we're moving through our day-to-day routine and friendships and relationships change, sometimes we feel really bad about the friendships that fade away. So let's talk a little bit about specifically what we're talking about. And this is not just, we're busy with life. And obviously, as people have families and career requirements or school or at home responsibilities, a lot of things can distract us and get in the way. And a lot of times the people that we want to keep in touch with, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, etc., sometimes those things don't happen, right? Like we all know, we look at our calendars and we think, okay, how about, 2 weeks from now on this Saturday at 5:00, does that work for you? Because I think it'll work for me. Let's pencil that in. That's a little bit different than kind of the whole friendship fading. More specifically about really friendships, like true friendships. Now, again, not the ones that, of course, with ebbing and flowing of schedules and routines, not that, but just the friendships that no longer serve you. And I don't want to use the term toxic friends because I think that's a word that gets thrown out a lot. And sometimes people are not toxic, but maybe the friendship is just no longer serving you. Maybe you have outgrown that friendship, or maybe that friendship has outgrown you. A lot of times in any kind of relationship, it's a two-way street. So it's okay and it's natural if you have had friendships maybe for a really long time. And that's a tough thing. When you have had a friendship for a long time, maybe one from childhood or one for just a long time, a lot of invested time over the years, a lot of knowing each other and your secrets and their family, and just really being kind of in the, threaded in the fabric, weaved into that fabric with that other person that, you feel kind of compelled or maybe even obligated to stay friends with them. So sometimes we need to know that it's okay to let those friendships fade away. It's okay to let them go. And as we, again, move through life, but also just change who we are, friendships are going to change because we as people change. So talking about friendships fading, it's okay if a friendship is no longer serving you to let it fade away. You don't need to tell the person, you don't need to send them a text or call them up and say, hey, this friendship is over, but it's okay to let it fade. So we'll talk just a little bit about a couple different ways this can happen. And one of them really is just, I've said the term before of a season and a reason. And, people do sometimes come into our life for different seasons, different reasons. And that's not to say that we're not valuing that time or valuing that relationship. But we're talking here again about kind of more longer term friendships, like the ones that are hard, the ones that are like really hard to walk away from, that those are the ones that are also okay. And even shorter term ones as well. But those longer friendships, we just feel so much like we can't let it go. But we just know deep down that, maybe after your time with that person, you don't feel fulfilled. You might feel drained. You might just feel like you walked away and they don't get you anymore. Or, maybe that friend you've noticed stopped asking you how you're doing or stopped asking you about that thing in your life, even though you took the time to talk about it and they're not even remembering to ask you about that thing. These friendships show up in different ways where it just tells us that this friendship is really no longer serving us. Another way this can happen too is if you're always showing up for somebody else and they're not showing up for you. So, maybe you're putting in 80% of the effort in that friendship or that relationship, and they're only coming maybe 20%. You're the one making all the phone calls, trying to keep in touch, make the plans, stay in contact, continual contact, or maybe just always listening to somebody. If you're always listening to somebody and they're not doing the same thing for you, that might be a friendship that needs to fade away. And sometimes we feel things. I do believe that our bodies tell us a lot about a situation. So our brain, sometimes the brain and the body are not quite on the same page, but sometimes in a way they are, meaning your brain might say, I've known this person for so long. I can't just walk away. I can't do it. I feel almost, again, obligated to be friends with them. But your body might feel a different way about that friendship. That person may have said something to you that crossed a boundary that you're not okay with, that you are not going to accept that kind of treatment from them. So your body's kind of fighting it of, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good to have this relationship anymore. And yet your brain might be saying, but we've known each other for so long. They know all my secrets and I know theirs. So that might be another time where it's really okay and healthy to just let that friendship fade away. Other situations too, just not only just that body telling you that yes or no to hold on to something, but again, with interests, what you're into. If you had a common connection with a friend and you both shared something that really connected the two of you, and if you're no longer into that interest, that alone, because if that's what connected you to begin with, let's say, or if that's been kind of your common underlying connector, and that's changed for you or the other person, that's okay to just understand if you've changed as a person and that common connector is not quite there and you're just holding on, you're trying to make the most of that relationship, but it's not really feeling like it was as easy as it was before, it's okay to let it fade away. There are times in my life as well where I have found friends that are wonderful people, but I just don't feel like I'm probably not giving them what they need either. And it's also because, in the day-to-day life, we are all busy. So we can't give as much time or as much effort or energy or, attention that we want to everybody in our lives, right? If you think about how many people you probably connect with on a day-to-day basis, whether it's coworkers or family or friends, etc., it's a lot of people. And if on top of all that, you're trying to give as much as you can to all your friends and family and relationships, that's a lot on you. So it's okay if, another reason why you want to allow a friendship to fade is because you just really can't keep giving that attention to that relationship. That's fair because, again, it's a two-way street. It's you and that other person. So it might just be you're not able to give it 100%. So again, you allow it to fade. I mentioned already that this has happened to me over time. Interests change. Again, sometimes that common connector has changed. Boundaries have been crossed, or if you feel slighted or disrespected. But when you do this again, these things can naturally fade on their own. You don't have to post something online to establish this new change in your life that you and this other person are no longer friends. You don't have to go as extreme as to blocking them or anything like that. Chances are that the other person in this situation is probably feeling the same thing. Maybe they've noticed that you've changed, or maybe they've noticed that the dynamic in your friendship is not quite what it used to be. So, or they might be feeling the same thing that, we used to be so close and it's just not there anymore. And that's okay. And they might have a lot of love and respect for you as well. But, they might not, or they might feel kind of relief that you feel the same way. But you don't have to verbalize that. If you just continue to go through your day-to-day routine and move through things, they're not going to reach out to you. You don't need to reach out to them. And over time, that friendship will fade away. And again, if you happen to run into that person at the store, you run into them in a restaurant or in your travels, or something happens on social media, you can still have a very courteous and friendly exchange that will not be uncomfortable and yet not feel kind of let it end in a good way, if that makes sense. If you establish yourself as, hey, we're not going to be friends, I don't like how you're talking to me and this is over, and then you run into that person, that could feel a little awkward, right? Feel a little bit uncomfortable. We're all about trying to make things simple, bringing that peace into your life. How do you create that peace? Is let's not create turmoil. Let's allow things that no longer serve us fade away, keeping that peace, but also we don't need to keep that relationship. So hopefully this will give you some insight as to what might work for you. And I'd love to hear about how some of the relationships you've maybe had in the past, how you have let them fade away as well. And maybe you have been doing this and you haven't even realized it. So whatever you're thinking about or going through, again, please, I'd love to hear what's happening. Please share in the comments below, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks so much and be well. Thanks again for joining me today. If this episode has helped you or can help someone you know, please share it with them. Stay safe and we'll chat again soon.